What's going on, everyone? It is Sunday, October 22nd, and I have a movie collection update for you here 3 months in the making. I knew I wanted to get this out right before Halloween, so I had it pretty planned in advance that my October update here would consist of mostly all horror films. I really wanted to create a Halloweeny update here, so not all of them, but the majority of the things here are horror and spooky related kind of stuff, so that's kind of the theme of this month. So let's get into it. We're gonna start with two unspooky things. Well, actually, one of them a little bit, but two VHS tapes, actually. I don't buy very many VHS tapes. For me to buy a tape, it has to be something really unique and really interesting. So I've got two tapes here, both of which kind of date back to my childhood. And the first one, this is a really rare grail of a tape that just happened to show up on eBay, and I snagged it up. If you follow my channel, you know I'm a big fan of the Blue Man Group. Right next to me here, I've got a whole display cabinet devoted to Blue Man Group stuff. Just look on my channel. I've done videos unboxing stuff. I'm a big Blue Man Group fan. And Blue Man Group dates back, to the late 80s. It goes back well, and I found this VHS tape. It is a press promo tape that I assume was sent around to different TV networks and stuff. Blue Man Group history. And it's got all these ancient clips. MTV's Funeral for the 80s. NBC, A Closer Look from 1991. CBS Channel 2 News, 1991. Regis and Kathy Lee, 1991. This has their 2001 Grammy performance on it. Just so many of these clips are not even on YouTube, and it's just this old Blue Man Group stuff. I'm really excited about it. So this was a grail. The quality on these was actually really good too, so for a Blue Man Group fan like myself, that's awesome. And then this was really cheap, but you know what? I got it as a curiosity because I love seeing how this stuff is made. One of my favorite book series when I was a kid was the I Spy series by Walter Wick. And the photography, the images, the creativity, there's something about those books that's just magical and otherworldly. And as a kid, I wouldn't even try to find the items in the pictures. I would just look at the pictures and marvel at how cool they looked. And somehow as a kid, I never knew this existed, but this popped up for like $2. I'm like, oh, I gotta see that. I Spy, More Than Meets the Eye, with Gene Marzolo and Walter Wick, and it's all about how they make the books. It's got a lot of behind-the-scenes footage and photos of how they do all the images. And fitting for Halloween, this was shot during the time they were doing the book I Spy Spooky Night in the mid-90s. So yeah, really cool little slice of nostalgia and kind of an inside look at it, because now I got to see how they made all of that. Okay, those two tapes out of the way, let's get to mostly Blu-rays and some DVDs at the end of Halloween season. And the first one is a brand new horror movie called Cobweb. It got dumped Barbenheimer weekend in theaters, which I heard good things about it. I wanted to go see it, but the 3 theaters all in my area, none of them were playing it. So I had to wait for Blu-ray on Cobweb, but thankfully I did. It came out, and overall I really did enjoy it. It's very much a horror movie told from a child's perspective. It has that surrealism, nightmare kind of feel to it while being completely drenched in the fall vibes. Like, everything about this movie, it just looks like fall. It looks like Halloween season. So why they dumped this on Barbenheimer weekend in the summer, I don't know. It's not perfect. There's definitely flaws. The third act goes kind of crazy before the movie ends very abruptly. So, a little weird. It's not perfect, but for just a nice, spooky, Halloween-y kind of vibe, atmosphere, fall, just throw it on the TV. It's actually really good. And there's some really effective, really creepy scenes in here where they really build tension. So I actually did enjoy my time with Cobweb. And this one, I was almost more just out of principle that I bought this, because 20th Century Studios and Searchlight Pictures, I know the movie Barbarian really kind of went under fire for all these direct streaming movies that are not getting physical media releases. So a year later, just out of the blue, they announced this one was getting a DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, the whole works. And I didn't really have that much interest in the movie to start, but I said I have to pre-order that just to help the cause. So if they see people are buying this, hopefully other movies like Barbarian and all these other streaming movies can get Blu-ray releases. And that is, of course, the Predator prequel, Prey. And, you know, the thing that I'm not big into period movies, especially something like this, this one goes way back, That being said, it actually is a pretty fun, entertaining action movie. And of course, I love Predator. I really like Predator 2 with Danny Glover and Gary Busey. I've never seen any of the other ones because I've heard nothing but how terrible they all are. So this is only my third venture with Predator, but it doesn't really sound like I'm missing much with that. But yeah, coming from a guy who does not really, I'd still put Predator and Predator 2 above this one. And I watched it with the English language track because one of my friends recommended, you gotta watch it with the Comanche language track, this language they made for the film, blah 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 blah. And I started watching it with the Comanche audio track, but the dubbing was it was very evident they shot it in English. Their lips were speaking English, so it was too distracting. I just watched the English version of it, but not bad. So hopefully this will get them to put more stuff just like that out on Blu-ray. Come on, Disney! And then this one been on my radar for a little bit. I found it was in my used store for like $5, so I picked up Ready or Not. And I know this one's got a really big cult following and, those hide-and-seek, human hunting kind of movies. And this is by far the strangest out of all of them I've ever seen. Especially given the fact our lead character here does not fight back. The evil family in this, they all take each other out one by one, and our lead here just kind of survives. But it's very clearly meant to be a dark comedy from the get-go. It does not take itself seriously at all. The ultimate resolution is completely ridiculous, but it's pretty funny. And it does have a really strong mood that makes it good for this season where they're in this mansion, all the candlelight. It's a very yellow and black, like contrasted movie, but it creates a good tone with that. And then these were both kind of last minute purchases. I saw these both in the theater, and I saw the first one too, the David Gordon Green Halloween, which Halloween 2018 I like, but all it is like a greatest hits of all the Halloween movies that came before it. I liked it. If I find it for cheap, I will pick it up just to complete the collection, which is mainly the only reason why I picked up from Target, because they had these cheap for Halloween. Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. This is a piece of shit. I saw this in the theater. I did not like it. I got it for completion's sake here for the collection, but for those people, it's like, oh, it's going to come around just like Halloween 3. No, it's not, because Halloween 3 was not meant to be a continuation of Halloween 1 and 2. You watch Halloween and Halloween Kills, this just completely disregards the trajectory they were on. And, ooh, Friday the 13th Part 5. Well, Friday the 13th Part 5 doesn't have any scenes where Roy overpowers Jason to steal his man. Like, that. If this was its own movie, not attached to anything, it'd probably be interesting just seeing this different take, but because this is meant to be part 3 of a continued storyline, it just makes no sense. I am not a fan of this one whatsoever. I got it for completion's sake, only for the collection. And this might piss people off. Halloween Kills, of the David Gordon Green Halloween movies, this one's my favorite. This movie is dumb as hell. This has one of the worst, most idiotic scripts I have ever seen. The mob mentality, evil dies tonight, of course, and, chasing a little Danny DeVito looking guy thinking he's Michael Myers. Everything about this is so stupid. And then there's just all the kill scenes. And that's kind of why I like it. It's just such a stupid, bonkers, ridiculous B-slasher movie that happens to be a Halloween sequel that got theatrical rights. So yeah, this is actually my favorite, and in my opinion, the most entertaining. It's not good. Not at all. But you compare with this bullshit, at night and day. Anthony Michael Hall is a lot of fun, despite the Evil Dies Tonight thing. And this is one that I was way late to the party on. I know this is one of the biggest cult hits, one of the biggest received horror anthologies around Halloween season, and I never got around to it until now. So, ladies and gentlemen, as of 2023, I finally got with the times of my horror community. I finally found a used copy of Trick or Treat right here. And I will say, I liked it, but I did not love it to the same extent that the vast majority people seem to do. I mean, it's a very ambitious anthology movie because it's not structured like a typical anthology where, yes, it's little vignettes of different stories, but it's all happening concurrently on the same Halloween night, and there's a little bit of overlap. It's like that movie Go, but for horror stories almost. And that's really ambitious, and there's a lot of really creative moments, a lot of very specific connective tissue with all the stories, but also because of that, you don't really spend that much time with each story at a time before it keeps jumping around, so it felt a little scatterbrained and the stories kind of felt half-baked. Even though the payoffs were very creepy and very much a dark comedy, like the whole bit with the Stephen Colbert looking guy trying to bury the bodies in the backyard after this kid projectile vomits all over his doorstep, like a total, dark comedy. But I was entertained. I liked it, and it does a beautiful job, much like Cobweb, of really capturing the Halloween feel. I personally just thought it was a little scatterbrained, so I can't say I loved it to the same extent most did, but I was entertained. Continuing with the horror anthology train, I got this at a Scream Factory, Shout Factory sale they were doing on their website, and I picked up the 1983 anthology Nightmares. And overall pretty good. You have the first story, which is very short, and it's one that I've seen that story so many times about the backseat killer, so it's fine the way it's presented here, though I've seen that story before I knew exactly how it was going to play out. The second story with Emilio Estevez is the most 1983 thing ever put to film, and it's ridiculous, but it's fun to watch. The third story is probably the most well-told, and is probably the only one of these four that I could see being a feature film, and it's got Lance Henriksen in it. And then the fourth one, it starts fine, and then it gets so overly ridiculous. The ending of the fourth story, some of the special effects with the giant rat, like in the bedroom, I was laughing my ass off for all the wrong reasons. It looks so bad. I think the story is this movie blew all their effects on the Emilio Estevez story with the arcades and the video games, and they had nothing left for that, so yeah, it's fine. It's serviceable. It's worth it for story 2 and story 3, and if you have a sense of humor, you're going to end up laughing at story 4. There is no wraparound or anything. It's literally just these stories strung together, because this was meant, I guess, to be a pilot for NBC. But, for the season, it's a good watch. Demons. I got this at Flashback Weekend nearly 3 months ago. Now, a lot of the Flashback Weekend movies I bought for this month, so I just sat on them and I didn't watch them immediately. That's why you didn't see any of my Flashback Weekend stuff in the last update. This being one of them, and crazy, paper-thin story, paper-thin characters. It's all about the giallo, colorful lighting, the oddly mainstream rock music soundtrack, and the gore. And it's just a silly, fun, crazy romp. Those Italians, man. So I'm glad I finally got around to watching Demons. It was pretty much exactly what you would expect out of that. Now, this was a blind buy from IFC Midnight. I really did not know anything about this one. I'm just like, well, I'm trying to do horror movies for this October update. It looks like a haunted house movie. Let's check it out. And it's called Haunter. Never heard of it before. It's directed by the guy that directed Cube, So I'm like, okay, I could deal with that. And it's like a weird haunted house movie that deals with a time loop and kind of time travel in a way where your community, it's like a ghost story movie told almost from the ghost's point of view, which is really interesting. There's a lot of time jumps, and it's creative the way it's told. You know, it's not the, I don't know if I'm going to be rewatching this every Halloween season, but there was enough unique and interesting things about this. I'm like, oh, it's different. You know, it's not your typical haunted house type thing. And there is some cool creepy imagery when they find these tunnels under the house and stuff. You know, it's like there was a movie with Kevin Bacon that came out a couple of years ago called You Should Have Left. This is like a much more ramped up version of that story from that movie. That's a movie everyone hated and I kind of liked, but I think this is a lot more. I think you'll have a better chance of liking this one than you will that one. But Vincenzo Natali, you know, guy that made Cube, I'm in it. I'm into it. And this was a flashback weekend buy, and I'm just going to come clean right now. I thought this sucked. I did not like my time with this whatsoever. It's called Starry Eyes. It's low budget. This art house, really artsy body horror. It felt really self-indulgent. It tried to be like a screw you Hollywood type movie. I did not like it. This was a pretty rough sit. That one did not do it for me. Another Scream Factory title. This is one I'd always heard about. It sounded really silly. It looked really silly. And by George, it was really silly. My Demon Lover. I keep wanting to call this My Demon Valentine for some reason. I don't know why. This is goofy. You have a guy that turns into a demon when he gets horny. And every time he transforms into the demon, he looks completely different, and there's, I don't know if this is trying to be a PSA about safe sex or, God, from abstinence. I don't know what this thing is trying to do. And there's a castle at the end. There's all these 80s. This is a movie that would only exist in the 80s. I feel like the plot to this would piss a lot of people off nowadays, but I laughed. I'm like, this is so dumb. It's ridiculous, but it knows what it is. So I was along for the ride with My Demon Lover. The fact that a movie like this gets the Shout Factory treatment, you get all these bonus features on it, I'm like, that says something about the state of the country we are now in. And then I think this is my last flashback weekend. Yes, it is. So, last one I got from Flashback Weekend from my good friends at the Severin Films table, I finally got to watch The Changeling. I've wanted to see this one, you know, haunted house movie for a long time with George C. Scott. This is like this big edition of it. It comes with the movie, got the soundtrack in there. And, you know, for a movie from, I think it's 1979, 1980, give or take, you know, there's some cool, creepy stuff in here. A little bit of a slow burn in places, but the story's interesting about a grieving father goes to this mansion and weird things are happening and he has to help piece together this murder that happened and this kind of conspiracy with this politician and stuff. And, you know, some of the stuff in this movie, the way it's shot is genuinely creepy. Like, there's like the shot where the woman sees the rocking chair or the wheelchair on top of the stairs, and at first you don't see what she's looking at. You just see this complete look of terror in her eyes. You know, there's some cool creepy stuff with the way the music's done. So, I mean, if you're watching my video here, you're most likely a horror fan. You most likely know your stuff already, so I'm assuming you already know The Changeling. But if you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely worth the hype. It is a really good ghost story movie. You know, don't let the age put you off. Okay, then these last couple Blu-rays are not horror Blu-rays. So these next two are actually birthday gifts I got. And this first one was a birthday gift from my dad. Neither one of us had ever seen this movie, but my dad got it for me and we watched it together on my birthday. and we were cracking up. This was awesome. I don't know how I never heard about this before and how it was not on my radar. It's the movie Logan Lucky with Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, and Daniel Craig. And it's Ocean's 11, but with NASCAR. And it's a blast. It's a heist movie. It's a southern country fried comedy about some good old boys. This might be my favorite character I've ever seen Daniel Craig play. And there's all these. My dad's a big racing guy, so he pointed out all these NASCAR cameos in here. And this movie does a great job at creating this very 70s aesthetic to the whole thing. And yeah, this was a trip. I wish I could have seen this in the theater. Yeah, this gets a top recommendation for me. It's very rare because comedy is the hardest genre there is to genuinely impress me with. So when you get something like this that's just such a unique plot, Daniel Craig playing a character such as Joe Bang, and there's this whole subplot with Dwight Yoakam as a prison warden. It's just so much fun. We had the time of our life watching this, and I loved Logan Lucky. It was a great birthday present. That was from my dad, and then this was from my mom. She got, knowing I love my action stars and trying to collect all the filmography. So she got this Bruce Willis thriller that I had never previously seen called Striking Distance. Still kind of in that heyday of Bruce Willis's career, and more of a thriller than it is an action movie, but it's really good. It has a great cast. Sarah Jessica Parker, Dennis Farina, Tom Sizemore, John Mahoney, I believe, the dad from Frasier. He's in this. Music by Brad Fiedel. Yeah, there's some cool, boat chase scenes in there. Interesting finale. The twist with who winds up being the villain and who winds up being the killer is a little silly. It's a little far-fetched. But, Bruce Willis is doing his wisecracking thing. There's some scenes in here with him. Brian James is in this, too. And he's got some interactions with Brian James in this that are absolutely hilarious. How's your wife? Oh, wait a minute. You're his partner. How's his wife? Like, no one could do wisecracking like Bruce Willis could. And he was still on his game with that in this. So, yeah, it doesn't get talked about as much, but it's definitely a good addition to my Bruce Willis library. And this I had heard about for a while. I remember when it got parodied on The Simpsons years ago, but I never knew anything about the movie. And I found this Blu-ray used for like $3, so I'm like, let's check this out. It's the German film Run, Lola, Run. And oh my god, this is the most German Euro punk rock music video movie that I've ever seen. It's like a video game where it does like the groundhog thing of time repeating itself only without reason. It just kind of does. And I think that's a good way to sum this movie up. Just everything that happens just happens and you just roll with it. And it's a ride. It's the late 90s and the early 2000s where all of these super hyper stylized movies that were all edited like music videos. Think of something like this. Think of something like Phone Booth. Just that whole era. Even dating back to something like Hackers from the 90s. I miss this vibe of just, like, the best way I could describe it is movies that are cut like music videos with the electronic early 2000s, late 90s soundtracks. Just the appearance of the lead character in this with her red hair and all that stuff. And I watched it the true way. I watched it with the German language track and the subtitles. Again, I tried to watch the English dub, but it just came off too bad, so I watched the original version. That's how I recommend you do it. Subtitles don't bother me as long as the movie's interesting enough, and this was a ride. This was an adrenaline rush, making me miss that time frame of movies. And as you all know, every update, Paul Walker and Gary Busey, gotta have a movie for either one of them, and one of those is going to be sadly coming to a close in this episode. I'll get to that in a minute, but first, my final true Paul Walker Blu-ray here is the Clint Eastwood directed Flags of Our Fathers, where him, Ryan Philippe, Adam Beach, Jesse Bradford, all these people. It's the Raising of the Flag at Iwo Jima, and that's so cool that Paul Walker got to co-star in a Clint Eastwood historical biopic. And I think that just goes to show the range that Paul Walker was on and the track record he could have had. I've said this before and I've said it again. No other celebrity death got to me like Paul Walker did. And I'll touch more on that in a minute. But after that, so that was the Paul Walker edition. And the Gary Busey edition is this, it's in a triple feature DVD. I have not watched Blood Monkey or In the Spider's Web yet. Blood Monkey has, I believe, F. Murray Abraham, and In the Spider's Web has Lance Henriksen. I have not watched either of those. The main reason I got this was for the Gary Busey collection, because he stars in this movie Maneater about a tiger that's just on the prowl, killing people in this town on the eve of the corn and pumpkin festival or like some weird thing. God, this was hilarious. You've got Busey playing the sheriff who just bumbles his way through the whole movie. There's a scene where he's like, they're going to jail. And the deputy tells him, but we don't have a jail here. And Busey just blankly stares like he doesn't know how to process that. And he teams up with this British big game hunter that's always smoking a pipe. Maneater is so weird, but it's funny. I'm like, I wanted just a weird Busey movie, and I got it, which is weird because Busey himself acts very restrained in it, but you have weirdly restrained, reacting Busey in this movie where everything around him is just so random and so goofy with this tiger. This was a really cheap DVD, and Maneater alone made it worth it. I mean, maybe Blood Monkey and In the Spider's Web are good. I'll have to watch those, shortly. But for Maneater, for the Gary Busey collection, I had a ridiculously fun time for questionable reasons, but with that. And my third Lance Henriksen movie here, and I love movies like outdoor survival and in the woods and stuff like that. So this sounded really up my alley. This 80s movie that I really never heard of, Survival Quest, where Lance Henriksen, he's taken this group of people to be one with wilderness and survive in the outdoors, how to take care of yourself in survival wilderness situations. And Mark Ralston is the lead of this paramilitary team that is like feuding with them. So I thought, ooh, that sounds like it could be a really cool thriller action movie. This feels like a Mormon film. Like, it's like you took a movie like that, like say you took First Blood, for example. And it's like a family movie. It's not a family plot, but the way it's filmed, the way the music is, the way all the characters act, the way the script plays out, it's like you're watching like a family religious Mormon film. Like at any point you're ready for Lance Henriksen to start talking about Jesus Christ. Like so I don't know. I thought this was a bit of a wasted opportunity. It had potential to be a really cool thing, but it just came off really weird like that. Now, of this entire update, this is the number one surprise. I bought this DVD for $5 blindly at my used store, knowing nothing about it. And I really did not even read the back. Thank God I didn't, because I recommend if you're going to watch this movie, don't look anything up. Just watch it cold, watch it blind without knowing anything. Because that's pretty much what I did. I looked at the cover and I thought it just looks like a generic, horror movie in the woods, blah, blah, blah. And it's this movie called The Cottage. Oh my God, I love this. I don't want to tell you too much, but this was a blind buy, and it came out of nowhere, and out of everything in the update, I think this might be my favorite thing, because this was just a trip. It's a wild British comedy horror film. The comedy in it is excellent, and the horror in it is excellent. And the movie never stops taking itself... the movie never takes itself seriously. At all. But at the same time, it gives you the balls of a real horror film, and gore and stuff. And it's excellent. I don't know whatever happened to this, why this is not more well known, but I absolutely loved every second. It's even got a post-credit scene. So, my advice to you, if you like horror movies, if you like British horror comedies, go into this cold. Don't even look at the synopsis. Just watch it, know nothing about it. I had the time of my life watching this. I absolutely loved The Cottage. We're just about done. This was a recommendation from one of my horror convention friends. He goes, Ken, you love your stupid, weird B movies. Matthew Blackheart Monster Smasher. And I go, what the fuck is that? Well, I found this DVD on Amazon for pretty cheap, so I got it. I don't know what the hell this thing was. This is like a knockoff version of Army of Darkness where this guy is killing these weird monsters in the city, and there's this really weird comedy and the weirdest special effects you've ever seen. I don't know, guy. This was out there. I don't know where you can find this. I don't know what the backstory is of this. This was just a cartoon of just insanity. Yeah, thank you, Josh, for the recommendation. I still don't know what the hell I even watched, but Matthew Blackheart, Monster Smasher. The city is oozing with evil. Going back to the horror anthologies, I got this from my used store. Never heard of this show. It's created by Mick Garris, so I'm assuming this was meant to be like a spiritual successor to Masters of Horror, and it's a show called Fear Itself. I think it only ever got this one season. And the episodes I watched it, they're hit or miss. It's fun seeing some recognizable people in there. There's a very young Elizabeth Moss in one of the better episodes that takes place at a police station with this cannibal guy. Jesse Plemons appears really young in one of them. Eric Roberts. So you get the stories all follow, though, like a very similar template. You know, if you know anything about anthologies and shows like this, you kind of know where things are going. So I'll be honest with you, I could see why it only got one season. I mean, the production value varies from episode to episode on this. Some look really good. Like I said, the Elizabeth Moss episode in the police station's one I really liked. But it's spotty. So it's not the worst. You know, if you like anthology shows, Masters of Horror, you know, check it out. You know, it's something. It's just nothing overly memorable. And I said this is going to be the last episode of the Paul Walker collection, which is true. As I'm not talking about his TV shows, I'm not talking TV show appearances or live TV. I'm just talking movies and filmography. Flags of Our Fathers was the last one I needed, and I officially want to close out this update and close out the Paul Walker section of my movie collection videos with the documentary I Am Paul Walker. This is one of the most disheartening documentaries I've ever watched. It's beautiful. It's really well put together. It's just so sad. Like, they've got Paul's family in there. You've got Tyrese Gibson, Wayne Kramer, Rob Cohen, all these people in here. And it goes chronologically through his life, his home life. His parents both talk about him. And then eventually when it gets to the death at the end, this is just... I mean, Paul Walker is my definition of taken way too soon, and it's just, what would have happened to the Fast and the Furious franchise had he stayed alive? What other movies would he have done? It's just sad. So I pay tribute to Paul Walker for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years now in these updates. Each update, I show one Paul Walker and one Gary Busey movie, because that's kind of been my thing. And now it's sad now that I've touched on Paul's entire filmography and have now closed out with this. But it's a really well done documentary. I highly encourage everyone to watch this. So cheers to you, Paul Walker. And that concludes my October Halloween horror movie update. We'll see you. I'm going to try to do a similar thing that I did to this. I'm gonna try to have another update for you guys in December before Christmas, where I talk about a lot of winter and holiday theme kind of movies. So we'll see. I've got a couple movies on my list for that already, so we'll see what we could do. Hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot of variety here. You know, leave a comment down below if you agree, disagree, whatever the case may be. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a safe and happy Halloween, and we will see you guys next time. Lots of content coming soon, so stay tuned.